Brian.
All right, Jenna, thank you very much. Meantime, just as thousands of passengers were describing deplorable conditions aboard, Carnival CEO Mickey Arison was spotted courtside at a Miami Heat game. Now, he is taking some heat. We'll have more on that in a bit. But let's talk about the ship, because there is talk that if it makes it to port at nightfall, perhaps it needs to spend another night offshore to avoid dangerous conditions. Let's bring in Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer Bobby Nash. Officer Nash, thank you for joining us here on CNBC. Do you believe that if it's dark, it should wait till dayfall or daybreak to come into port?
Well, that's certainly not something that we would be able to speculate on. The Carnival Cruise Ship Company has submitted a dead ship tow plan to the Coast Guard, which has been approved, but as far as what is best for towing that vessel back in, I'm not the subject matter expert on that topic.
Officer Nash, what can you tell us about Mobile Bay? Is it a particularly treacherous or hazardous bay?
I also don't have any information in particular about the Mobile Bay in itself. What I can tell you is that the plan that they've submitted has gone to people who are thoroughly involved into the port of Mobile. They understand the complications and the problems that it would take to make such a maneuver in there. And they're certainly going to take the most precautions necessary and the steps necessary to ensure that everyone on board that vessel is safe as they start to transit into the port of Mobile.
It's certainly one thing that we are hearing, Officer Nash, is that the port officials would actually prefer that it does not come in tonight because of potentially difficult currents, and also I believe there are certain areas in the channel that are only about 10 feet deep. Do those port officials have the ability or the authority to say, do not come?
Again, that would be outside of my purview. What I can tell you is the Coast Guard has looked at the plan. They understand that they have individuals who know are subject matter experts at moving this type of ship into this kind of scenario, into this kind of port, and they are the best ones to be able to tell you whether or not, if it's safe or not. But what I can tell you is they're not going to do anything to endanger the lives of the people or the passengers on that ship.
Does to Mandy's point, Officer Nash, does the Coast Guard have the final say here?
Have the final say here as far as what?
When officials say come in, do you have the power to say no, it's unsafe?
You know, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
When can we expect a decision from the Coast Guard or a recommendation if that's what you'll issue?
Well, like I said, the dead ship tow plan has already been submitted to the Coast Guard. They're in review of that process, and I'm not the right person to tell you whether or not if that's a good determination or not. I can tell you that the Coast Guard isn't going to do anything to endanger the lives of the crew or the passengers aboard that vessel. Our primary concern for anyone that's out on the water is the safety of life at sea. That's what the Coast Guard's been doing for more than 200 years, and that's what we're going to continue to do for the American people and anyone transiting U.S. or international waters.
Well, thank you very much for the insight that you were able to provide us, Officer Nash. In the meantime, let's bring in Dartmouth's Paul Argenti. He is a professor of corporate communication and also cruise logs. Gene Sloan. Paul, let me get